Good morning, beautiful people, especially today. My name is Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I'm the Montgomery County Council President, and it is with such a great honor to have a proclamation celebrating Women's History Month led by the County Council. It brings me great joy to be joined by so many amazing women today for this very special Women's History Month commemoration at the Montgomery County Council. As a woman, as a mother, it's inspiring to stand beside so many other women today who are uplifting our communities and making us proud at the local, state, and national level. As we face unprecedented times, I'm proud to live in a county where diversity is celebrated and representation matters. I am honored to be part of the majority women-led council. Yeah, we're 7 now. Alongside my colleagues here today, whom we will hear from shortly. I am also incredibly proud that immediately following our proclamation today, for the first time in the council's history, we will be voting on a resolution affirming our support for the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which was adopted by the United Nations in 1979, before I was born, as a global bill of rights for women. Finally, we're doing it in this county council, and I'm proud that each one of you is present to see this historic moment. During its 45th anniversary and the 92nd session in 2026, the United Nations Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women reaffirmed that CEDAW, that's how it's known, remains a living framework that addresses modern challenges such as gender-based violence, economic inequality, and emerging forms of discrimination. 189 countries have ratified this treaty, but even though the United States signed it in 1980, it has not been ratified. Shh, that's not good. Although the United States has not ratified this agreement, Montgomery County has long embraced its principles and has demonstrated a long-standing commitment to uplifting women and girls. Montgomery County is proud to stand firmly on the side of equity. We recognize that gender equity is intersectional and touches every part of life, including economic opportunity, education, childcare, safety, healthcare, and civic participation. As I stand here before you as an immigrant woman on a majority women council, I recognize both the responsibility and the urgency of this work now more than ever before. So thank you for coming, and I'm gonna before we read the proclamation and have everybody coming down, I'm gonna ask the ladies on the county council to give some remarks, and I'm gonna start with my amazing council vice president, Marilyn Baucom.
Thank you. It's so great to see everybody here. There are so many powerful leaders in the room, most of whom just happen to be women. So we need to make sure that when we talk about leadership, when we talk about history, women have always been there, women have always been leading, and it's great that we have an entire month to recognize that. And we need to continue it on past this month and throughout the whole year. Unlike my president, in 1979, I was getting ready to graduate from college. So a different perspective here. But what that means is that when I started work, it was a much different world. It was a much different professional experience. I remember when I went to buy my first car when I graduated from college, they were waiting for my dad to show up to help me. And I've had that experience. I continue to have that experience, waiting for now my husband to show up and help me buy the car. So we've made significant progress, and so much more to do. But I have faith in every woman in the audience, and men too, that we support women's rights, we support our right to be here and to make our own decisions and to lead the world. So thank you.
Next, Councilmember Chevra Evans.
Good morning. Good morning. It's such a beautiful day. And as I look out into the audience, I see so many women that I've come to know over the years that I know that have broken many barriers themselves. So for that, I thank you for all the work that you've done. The person that comes to mind immediately for me is Shirley Chisholm. She was a great leader. And I hope that today what we can take away, I think Vice President Marilyn Balcom said that, this shouldn't just be a moment, that we should continue celebrating this legacy, because our young women need to be reminded that there are no limits. I have 2 young women, and I'm always trying to model the behavior that whatever it is that you set your mind to do, that you can absolutely do it. So for that, I just say thank you to the County Council for recognizing Women's History Month. Thank you for allowing all the different women that are impacting children's and young women's lives every single day to come and celebrate and gather for breakfast. And I just look forward to continuing to working with all of you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone who's here today. So I knew there was going to be a lot of us talking, which is an important thing, because as Council Vice President Balcom says, it's important that we have different perspectives. And so when we think about leadership, it's not just having one at the table, but it is having many to bring the different perspectives. And I thought today I would read part of the poem from Amanda Gorman, We Rise. There's a lot at stake, but making a difference always takes great courage. So we encourage women who dare to stare fear square in its face. Women who've always shown that when one woman stands up, she is never alone. We know that when she steps up to right a wrong, she will fight to bring others along. To the network, into the conversation, working together to change communities and nations for generations. Our world made all the stronger, the longer women are able to sit at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sess.
Good morning, everyone. I am so honored to see some of the trailblazers who led the way for a woman like me to sit in this space and in this place and lead. But this isn't new to me. I was on the Gaithersburg City Council as the only woman. And I remember when when former Mayor Kate Stewart, Councilmember Nancy Navarro, this was my trilogy. These are the people that I called on and leaned on. And so now to have not just 6, but 7 women on the county council, to be the mother of only 1 daughter, it is not lost on me the importance of being in this position and representing this county, and also remembering that we have so much more work to do. We're still not making the same amount of money as men, and as a Black woman, we're making even less. And so while we are in this space and in this seat, we have work to do, but we have a lot more work to do across this country. And we are just very fortunate to be in Montgomery County with all that's happening around us. And so I'm looking around this room and I'm just so grateful for all these women who are our village, and will continue to help us carry the baton forward for the next generation of women. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Mick.
It is an honor and a pleasure to be here in this room full of powerhouses. It's just given me such a lift and a boost today to see you all and to be in community and in solidarity with all of you. And I love that there are so many different types of expertise in this room. There is a diversity of opinions and ideas, but a clear set of shared values. And it is fantastic to be together and to sit in that with all of you today. I came from a background in organizing and advocacy, and I will just say that there are so many women in those rooms, and I know that the women in this room know that in the course of history, women have driven movements for all types of change in all types of issue areas. Women are brave and courageous and have been the driving force behind so much of what has been accomplished. And as I'm looking around and meeting with students and all the good work that they are doing across so many different issue areas, I have to say I see so much of the same thing today. So many powerful girls who are standing up for positive change, who are fighting for the rights of their community members, for meaningful systemic change, and it is just it's just a really powerful thing to see. I also just wanted to name that as we are talking about women and the need to have women at the table and the positive force that women have brought, that we are, of course, and obviously including in that trans women, our non-binary siblings. They have always been here, and we need to continue to fight to find more spaces at the table and more seats of power so that we can be sharing these spaces in an even more obvious way, because they are obviously an integral part of the circle as well. So thank you all so very much for being here, for all that you do, and I look forward to a lot of good work ahead.
Thank you. And finally, Councilmember Dawn Durkee.
Thank you, Madam President. Grounding this in the 1970s, as you did when you started, and I like to think some good things happened in the 70s, which might be when I was born, but I was born before that. But I thought about how when you look at history and you look over time at women who were change makers, often early on they were having to do it alone. They were very much islands unto themselves, just pushing. And then it got to be more collective. And what a beautiful thing that was. And we are not a monolith, right? We may all be women, but we are all very different. That's beautiful. And then I think about the advertising of the 1970s and what it spoke to. Sure, we were accepting women in the workforce, but also, weren't we presenting advertising companies very specific views of what a woman in the workplace should be, should look like, should do, and definitely not talking about in any of those commercial ways the lack of equality in the workplace for women. And I think about, I graduated from law school in 2000, and I might be wearing navy blue today, which is, one of the colors you were permitted to wear in court. The red shirt definitely would not have passed muster. And I have pants on because they're comfortable and I enjoy them. But that was not so much welcomed. And when my class graduated in 2000 from the University of Maryland School of Law, half the graduates were in fact women. And now, typically, our law schools are graduating more women than men. And we have seen positive change in the courtroom and elsewhere in the profession. And that's a good thing. But there always must be evolution. There always must be striving for more. And I welcome the celebration today and look at opportunities like this as a way to say, we gather, we celebrate what we have achieved, and we collectively steel ourselves for the work moving forward. So thank you all for all that you do. Thank you for being here today with us, and the work continues. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. So this is how we're gonna get this done, my friends. Where all my colleagues and I are gonna come down with all of you. So all of you need to come this way, and we're gonna read the proclamation. But before we do that, we have two very special guests who are gonna share a couple words before we read the proclamation, and that's Camille Brewer and Isabel Argotti. So if you guys, and I say it with my Italian accent, Argotti. So if you guys can please move forward if you're coming for the proclamation, and we're gonna read it down there, okay? So let's go. come this way. And then I'm gonna ask Isabel, where did she go? Oh, there you are. She's right here. All right. Just give 1 second so we can come. And I'm gonna ask you.
No.
We'll hold this one.
Hi, here.
All right, if there's more room this way, come on, this way, please. Please, this way. Come. There you go. You see, I love the productivity. There you go. So again, my dear friends, hello everybody. See, women do love to talk. No kidding. So good morning, everybody. We're gonna continue, and first, we're gonna ask Ms. Camille, please, if you could share a couple words.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Camille Brewer. I'm with the League of Women Voters. Next week, I'll be a delegate to the United Nations for the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. And I'm going to be really proud to say that my home county, Montgomery County, now has a proclamation that supports CEDAW. This is an amazing fact that I'm going to take to New York and share with the other delegates. So it's also a moment of thanks and celebration. I do want to acknowledge the wonderful work of the many organizations that support women's opportunities and rights in this county. I also want to acknowledge the work of our stellar Commission for Women. Where are they? Yeah. And the chair and the chair is behind us. And what can I say about our county council? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was on a panel with Natalie. It feels like just a few weeks ago. And Natalie said, we're going to have this proclamation. And I said, okay. And here we are. So to all of the amazing people in this county and in this room on this council, I just want to say thank you. This is fantastic.
Thank you. Next, another rock star that makes me so proud. Isabel, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Isabel Argati. I wear a couple hats, and most importantly, so I'm the Deputy Director at Community Bridges, which is a leadership empowerment program for young girls in the county, which is very, very important as we think about the next generation. And I'm also on the board for Creative Wheaton, which is a newer organization, really uplifting the culture, the arts, the heritage of the Wheaton District, and we cannot do that without including women in that legacy. This work is very personal to me. I am one of 3 sisters. I was raised by a matriarch family. My mom's like one of 5 sisters. My grandmothers are from a different country. One of my grandmothers didn't go past 3rd grade education. And so as we think about the legacy that we are doing generation to generation, it's very needed, and we still have work to do. And I don't think we can do that without including women at the table. All these incredible women, thank you for all the work that you're doing in our community. I'm proud to have grown up in Montgomery County and been a product of Montgomery County, but it could not have been possible without the organizations, the nonprofits, the leaders that really shine, so I could see that I could do that too. And especially our young women, we cannot move together forward as a society without educating our young girls. So please include them in all the work you do, and congratulations to everyone. Happy Women's History Month. And lastly, I do want to uplift especially our immigrant women right now. It is very especially hard for us, immigrant myself, as you heard from Councilmember Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. It is not easy times, and so definitely include that perspective in the work that you do, because it is only getting harder. And so thank you once again, and thank you for celebrating this special month.
Thank you, Isabel. Very proud. And with that, we're going to start reading the proclamation. So it says, we're going to give it on in a few minutes. Do you have a big one? Oh, this one. Yeah. The County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland proclamation. Whereas women of every race, class, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, and ethnic background have made vital contributions to the growth and strength of Montgomery County, our nation, and the world in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. And
whereas women have fought for and worked tirelessly to secure their own independence, enfranchisement, and equal opportunities, and have spearheaded efforts to create a fairer and more equitable world for all. And
whereas after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress officially recognized March as Women's History Month in 1987 to celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and their achievements throughout American history. And
whereas while women have made great strides toward equity and equality, we cannot rest until all women can assume their rightful place as full participants in a secure, prosperous, and just society. And
whereas archaic stereotypes about gender roles perpetuate the gender pay gap, with women in the U.S. earning about 81 cents for every dollar compared to their male counterparts at the same education level. For women of color, the gap is even wider. Black women earn about 66 cents and Latinas about 52 cents compared to white non-Hispanic men. These disparities not only limit economic security, but also contribute to the continued underrepresentation of women in the highest paying careers. And
whereas, despite these challenges, the accomplishments of women have been critical to the growth and development of the economy, medical and scientific discoveries, cultural and artistic expression, social advancement, and more. And
whereas Montgomery County's history of trailblazing women includes Rachel Carson, who sparked the modern environmental movement, Clara Barton, founder of the American Red Cross, Emily Edmondson, who once enslaved but ultimately freed and became an abolitionist, whose story played a key role in the fight to end slavery in the U.S., and Maricela A. Bernard, the first judge of Hispanic descent in Montgomery County Circuit Court history, and Susan Lee, the first Asian American to serve as Maryland's Secretary of State, first Asian American elected to the Senate, and first Chinese American elected to the General Assembly. And
whereas today, the 20th Montgomery County Council includes 7 women council members, all of whom you've just heard from, each making history of their own and together forming a majority of the legislative body in Montgomery County. And
thank you for the assist. And whereas the theme for Women's History Month this year is Leading the Change, Women Shaping a Sustainable Future, highlights how women, especially from marginalized communities, are driving solutions to interconnected global challenges, from climate and economic justice to community resilience and civic power. And
whereas Montgomery County strives to be a welcoming community for all women, thanks to strong support from countless community leaders like the ones we have here today, government officials, nonprofit organizations, and county agencies. And
whereas during Women's History Month, we commemorate the struggles, celebrate centuries of progress, and reaffirm our steadfast commitment to women's rights in Montgomery County, the U.S., and worldwide.
now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes March as Women's History Month, presented on the 3rd day of March in the year of 2026 by Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez and the entire amazing Montgomery County Council. Thank you so much. A photo now. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to start. We need to continue our session. With all the love that I feel in this room, it's really amazing, and I hate to be the one breaking it up, but somebody has to do it. And if people can please sit down, it will be very, very, very appreciated. And if you don't go away and just wait for like one more minute, you can witness the vote on the resolution that we just talked about. So just give me a minute and we'll get to it if people sit down. And thank you so much for your understanding. All right, we're gonna continue. We're live, right? Okay, yeah. So next we have general business. I have an announcement to make. Pursuant to Section 3-211 of the General Provisions Article of the Maryland Code, I am announcing that the Open Meetings Compliance Board issued an opinion dated February 25th, 2026 regarding a complaint filed against the council. In response to that complaint, the board found that the council did not violate the Open Meetings Act with respect to statements made by the council before a closed session on November 12, 13, and 14 of 2025. The board also found that the council did not violate the act with respect to the timelessness of the council's written minutes. The board opined that the council's written summary of one meeting held on October 7, 2025 did not include sufficient details about the topic of the meeting. This announcement is not an admission of a violation or an agreement with all aspects of the board's opinion. The council appreciates the board's thorough review and recommendations. Now, the minutes from the February 3rd, 2026 closed session, February 9, 2026 state legislative sessions, February 9, 2026 public hearings, and February 10, 2026 council sessions were circulated to council members for review. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, these minutes are approved. Agenda item 1 is the introduction and action on a resolution in support of the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. I think we had a lovely ceremony and breakfast, and I'm very proud of everybody who made this happen. We, in the audience, we also had members of Senator Chris Van Hollen and Senator also Brooks, and I think Congressman Jamie Raskin. And we also had the president of the Board of Education, Grace Rivera Owen, and we also had the board member of the planning board, Mitra is still here. And we also have a former colleague, Nancy Navarro. So it was a full house to join in this, this important day. So in order for the council to act on this resolution, we must first vote to suspend the council's rules of procedure, Rule 7D, to allow for immediate action. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Don Lukey, second by Councilmember Lori Ann Sales. Those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution in support of the United Nations Convention. Moved by Council Vice President Marilyn Balcom, second by Councilmember Lori Ann Sales. It was you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. And it passed unanimously. Thank you so much for your work. And to the League of Women Voters. Moving on. The council will now sit as District Council for a work session on the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. The Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee recommends approval with amendments. Chair Fritzen, would you please share the committee's recommendations?
Yes, I would be happy to. The Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee held 3 work sessions on February 2nd, February 11th, and February 23rd. I will turn it over to council staff to walk us through the packet, but just wanted to note that there's a lot here. It's fairly dense, but there was a lot of unanimity on the committee, and we went through the items and the topics, which we'll do today. The key point here is that we want to be strategic, that we don't want just a bedroom community, that we want jobs, particularly in a place that, historically was a critical job center for the Up County and Montgomery County for many, many years, and we want to return that job-centered focus to it. There's some really exciting opportunities and exciting plans, and we wanted to really make sure that we focused on the economic development opportunities in particular, that this is a unique location, specifically with the ComSat site, similar to other strategic economic development opportunities like in White Oak, which we just talked about extensively and we're all very excited about, as well as the former White Flint Mall site. And we want to make sure that it is thought of that way, that it is discussed that way, that all the various county and outside agencies are viewing it that way and seeking public-private partnerships and other opportunities in order to see that come to fruition. So I also want to thank the district council member who participated in all of our sessions and played a significant role on that, and thank the planning staff and planning board and planning department for their work, the historic preservation for their work, since there was a key point of that, and I see Ms. Ballo here in the audience, and council staff as well. So with that, let me turn it over to Ms. Dunn, and she can walk us through the packet and we can take this up.
Thank you, and good morning, Council. You do have a large staff report for you for this work session and for the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan itself. You'll note that on the cover page we have links to the staff reports that were provided to the committee. There were 3 very lengthy work sessions where the committee spent a lot of time going through each one of the recommendations in the plan so that they could make sure that the language was the way they wanted it, and that the direction for the board when they look at that master plan and reviewing applications in the future will understand what their intent is. With that, we'll go through, I'll just note, I'm going to do just a very brief overview of some of the high points of the plan area. You did have a briefing, but for some of you it's been about a month ago, so I'll make this very brief, but I will touch on some points to give you context for the recommendations today. And then as we go through the staff report, you'll see that what I will mainly focus on are the edits that the committee is recommending for this council. And those are all blocked for you in the staff report. The edits are in red, and we'll go through each one of those as well. So with that, we are on the first page of the staff report, and it really is where we begin to talk about the Clarksburg plan. As many of you know, it's home to around 30,000 residents, most of whom moved to the area after the 1994 Clarksburg Master Plan. And while Clarksburg has realized much of its anticipated residential growth from the 1994 plan, the employment center, public transit improvements, and community facilities such as a library and recreation center have yet to be realized. So the purpose of this sector plan is to revisit prior goals for this community and call attention to those items that remain unfulfilled. The plan's vision for Clarksburg is to create a more complete, connected, and sustainable community through recommendations designed to shape its future development with transportation networks, additional recreation opportunities, advancing the county's housing and economic development goals, and preserving and protecting the environment. On the second page of the staff report, you'll just see a map. It shows the outline of the sector plan area. It constitutes about 970 acres. The Clarksburg area has experienced the fastest population growth and housing growth of any part of Montgomery County in the past 20 years. And as a result, this community has a unique demographic profile and housing market compared to the county as a whole. Clarksburg has larger households, more families, and younger and more diverse residents. The community has shifted from a majority non-Hispanic white residential population to a far more racially diverse community. In 2023, Asian residents compose the largest racial group in Clarksburg, accounting for 40% of the area residents compared to 15% county-wide. Clarksburg households live in owner-occupied homes, composing 87% of occupied units. They have a larger share of townhomes than the county as a whole, and notably smaller share of multifamily units. The area consists, as we've just noted, primarily of townhouses and single-family detached homes. There are several public schools, places of worship. There's an area of light industrial and commercial business along Gateway Center Drive. And as already noted, the ComSat Laboratories property covers about 200 acres in the south end of Gateway Center Drive. This property has been largely vacant since 2005. South of Comstat property, there are open fields and forests that surround the farmhouse that was once a larger Lithicum family farm. And we'll make note of that. It is the name of one of the neighborhoods that we will be discussing in a few minutes. So Clarksburg is also home, though, to several streams and stream valleys. Little Seneca Creek and its tributaries, commonly known as Cool Brook, flows through the plan area. The stream channels and the associated environmental features are protected by an assortment of private conservation easements and parkland. The Planning Department undertook an extensive community outreach and engagement process during the preparation of the plan. It included not only individual meetings, but canvassing door to door through with the help of a consultant, 4 community listening sessions, 4 community visioning workshops, and this is all took place within the first year after the plan kicked off. Their key takeaways from these public meetings that helped frame the recommendations in this plan were the desire to see a completed road network, better pedestrian and bicycling infrastructure, and more public transportation options. The need for a library, a community center with recreation options, and a public swimming pool. The public also expressed a desire and a feeling that Clarksburg is generally peaceful and residents appreciate its small town feel, the population diversity, but wanted more of a complete community with more amenities. There's an appreciation of Clarksburg's natural environment, particularly its trails and regional parks, and then of course concern with any potential impacts on the future on their water quality forests, and especially the sector plan's watershed area. Just like we had a long discussion in the University Boulevard corridor plan about the racial equity and social justice efforts made by the planning department when they undertake a master plan, this plan also followed an equity framework based on the planning department's internal equity peer review group, which is a part of the planning department's equity agenda for planning. The equity peer review group reviews ongoing master plans and sector plans, applying evaluation tools that are based on recommendations from the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, frequently known as GARE. There are 2 appendices to the plan that highlight all of the engagement efforts. There's an Appendix C, which is the Community Feedback Report, and Appendix M, which is an Outreach and Engagement Summary. As you recall, the council also heard a lot of testimony at the public hearing that was held in the community. That public hearing was on January 21st. There were more than 30 speakers who provided oral testimony, and then the council also received written testimony in response. Some of the most often cited features of the plan supported by that public testimony were the potential to increase housing supply and diversity, increase economic development potential, the realignment and potential funding path for Observation Drive Extended, and the retention of the I-270 interchange option to serve a large employer and reduce congestion. And some of the concerns noted were development that could impact Little Seneca Creek and 10 Mile Creek, potential loss of state designated priority urban forests, proposed transportation infrastructure, if it could cause environmental harm, and then the loss of the ComSat building as a historic structure. With that, we are now going to turn to the plan-wide recommendations. We are on page 5 of the staff report. And the first plan-wide recommendation section is on land use. The property in the plan area is composed of 2 low-density residential zones, 2 planned development zones, a commercial residential mixed-use zone, an employment office zone, and a light industrial zone. So it's quite a mix of zoning out in this area. There are also 2 overlay zones. There's the Clarksburg East Environmental Overlay Zone and a Transferable Development Rights Overlay Zone. The primary purpose of the Clarksburg East Environmental Overlay is to protect environmental features of the plan and regulate development that could affect 10 Mile Creek. The TDR overlay provides increased residential density for the purchase of TDRs. There are 2 locations covered by the TDR overlay, and I will note that in the plan area they have both developed to their maximum residential density. We are on page 6, and we have on this page the land use goals and the land use recommendations in the plan. And you will note that the committee was unanimously in support of the land use goals as presented in the plan and as written, with the addition of a 4th goal, which you'll see in red on page 6, which is to support economic development in the plan area that provides increased employment opportunities, particularly with respect to redevelopment of the ComSat property.
I don't see any questions. We can move on.
Okay. And following that, you'll see the land use recommendations. They are also listed down on page 6. There's one minor edit. The committee felt using the term biophilic was maybe too technical for the average reader and have changed that to nature-based design. And with that, the committee unanimously recommends approval of the land use recommendations.
Without objection?
Okay. We are on page 7. This is housing, and the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan area is home to around 1,100 housing units, largely in the form of townhouses. As of the writing of the plan, there were no multifamily rental units in the area, although construction of one is now underway. The housing goals are listed for you on page 7. Ours are the housing recommendations. These are probably very similar to other recommendations and goals we've seen in other master plans. They further the goals of the council and the planning department with respect to housing, and the committee unanimously recommends approval of the goals and recommendations as written.
Without objection?
Okay. We're on page 8. There's a section on community design. The purpose of this section was to achieve unique, mixed-use, welcoming neighborhoods that include well-designed transportation network that are accessible, inviting parks and open spaces, and areas that contribute to the diverse and thriving character of Clarksburg. There are community design goals listed on page 8. What is a little different here is I don't list all of the recommendations in the community design recommendation section because there are 6 pages of them. This is a little different. In the past, we typically get design guidelines that accompany our master plan. The planners felt that in this case, with mostly greenfield development and the desire to really ensure that we create neighborhoods with the right mix of attention to blocks and streets and safety and environment, that the design goals were placed in the plan. So the committee had a conversation about that, and the committee unanimously recommends approval of the community design goals and the recommendations in the plan as written.
Without objection?
Okay. Next, we'll turn to transportation, and with that, I will turn to Mr. Kenny.
Thank you. The transportation section of the plan has 28 recommendations split into 3 sections: public transportation, street network, and active transportation. Starting with the public transportation section, the plan builds on the recommendations of the Corridor Forward I-270 transit plan, which, in terms of what's relevant to this area, recommended a premium transit service to run on dedicated lanes through the future Observation Drive. It's referred to in that plan as the Milestone ComSat East Clarksburg Connector. It's referred to in this plan as the Clarksburg Milestone Corridor Connector. These are the same. This service would connect at its northern terminus along Stringtown Road with the Maryland 355 BRT line in the northern section, as it's currently referred to in the CIP, and would connect at its southern section at the Milestone Park and Ride with the northernmost portion of the central BRT segment that's in the CIP currently. So plugging into our planned and underway BRT network. So recommendations there are 2 recommendations related to this service. The first recommendation opens up a discussion of where to put the northern terminus of the Clarksburg Corridor Connector based on future planning, whether that be at the Clarksburg Town Center or Clarksburg Premium Outlets or at Gateway Center Drive and Stringtown Road. And it also lists 3 locations for bus stops within the plan area for this service. The second recommendation is intended to study the feasibility of adding ride-on service along Observation Drive once that facility is completed. The idea behind this being that the plan that the MCDOT will likely deliver Observation Drive extended prior to being able to begin this new dedicated lane premium bus service. So there's a bit of a phasing issue in terms of how to build the facility for premium transit service that won't yet be able to run. The solution the committee reached on this was to add some language. This is at the bottom of page 9 of the staff report, to say the results of this study may help determine if the interim design of Observation Drive includes dedicated bus lanes or if the outside lanes are used for another purpose in the interim condition. and this will come up again in recommendation 12. Either way, dedicated bus lanes are recommended for the final condition of Observation Drive. So trying to make sure that we don't have to build Observation Drive and then tear it up again to build dedicated lanes, but if possible, if ride-on service can be implemented, to make sure that dedicated lanes are built in the initial construction of Observation Drive.
Without objection, you can continue.
Thank you. And then recommendation number 3 of the public transportation section, the committee recommended changing the language from develop a capital improvements program to consider a capital improvements program. This is sort of on procedural grounds, just that the council doesn't usually, this is a way that we usually discuss future capital investment in current master planning. And recommendation number 4 relates to establishing a park and ride facility, and that's the public transportation section. Moving on to the street network section. The committee unanimously recommends approval of the street network recommendations as amended before you. I'll move to, without any questions on recommendations 5 through 11, I'll move to recommendation 12, which builds on the recommendation previously about studying the feasibility of transit service along Observation Drive, and reflects that in this recommendation by saying the interim design may not establish dedicated lanes at the time of construction if bus service is not anticipated to use the new roadway soon after construction is complete, but reserves space between the curbs for building such facilities. The committee also, as you can see, bracketed off on the bottom of page 11, removed parking as a possible use of those outside lanes pending dedicated lanes if service is not established, and added that the interim lanes would be constructed to allow future dedicated bus lanes to be added with limited additional construction cost. So this is all about that phasing of Observation Drive to, if possible, allow for buses running on dedicated lanes.
Without objection, and we did take a significant amount of time in committee on this particular point with a district council member. Council Vice President Balcom.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time that was taken in this. I just want to bring up 2 points. One is how critical Observation Drive is to this entire plan. This plan, like other plans, have been is predicated on the transportation. So the T&E committee just took this up in the CIP, but as we look at master plans and we look at what we're promising the community, we have to follow through on that promise. So I just wanted to highlight the criticality of Observation Drive. And then the question of transit, we're always talking about the need for transit in the Up County. That we're not discussing that. It's included in the master plan, but at some point, again, we're going to have to, if we are assuming transit in the Up County, we actually have to put transit and pay for transit in the Up County. Just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Very important point. Noted. You may continue.
Thank you. The committee also recommended a slight tweak to recommendation 13 to say, which includes, which initially stated that separated bikeways are not recommended on town center streets if a parallel or alternative bikeway is established on a nearby road. Planning staff noted to the committee that this was due to those streets likely not warranting such facilities. So the committee added the following language: unless planned density and land use would generate a level of traffic and bicycle activity that would warrant separated bike lanes. So if that warrant were hit, the option would be left open to provide such facilities. The rest of the street network recommendations were unchanged by the committee and reflect various intersection safety and road facilities in the master plan. Moving on to the active transportation section, the committee unanimously recommends approval of this section with the amendments that I will walk through. Recommendation 23, the committee also removed recommendation 25, which would be to conduct a feasibility study to determine whether a separated side path could be accommodated within the existing West Old Baltimore Road I-270 underpass between Lake Ridge Drive west of I-270 and the existing West Old Baltimore Road I-270 underpass. The committee suggested removing this recommendation due to the kind of patent unfeasibility of such a project, and that and also due to the fact that there is recommendation 26 as well, which would provide a shared use path with the reconstruction of that underpass, which, given the steep embankments and narrow right-of-way of West Old Baltimore Road through this area, would be a much more feasible way to deliver a shared use path. And without any other questions on the transportation section, I will turn it back over to Ms. Dunn to move on to the environment section.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. We are at the bottom of page 14 of the staff report. We're doing the plan-wide recommendations on environment. So despite the plan's suburban setting, there is a significant network of streams, forests, and local habitats. The entire plan area is located within a special protection area, or SPA. Most of it is within the Clarksburg SPA. A small portion of it, that north of Stringtown Road, is in the 10 Mile Creek SPA. And there's a map for you on page 15 of the staff report that shows that, in fact, the 10 Mile Creek SPA and the Clarksburg SPA, and the plan area is outlined in red. Much of the plan area is also designated as a priority urban forest by the Maryland Department of Natural Resources. Priority urban forests are considered priorities across Maryland for retention and protection. I just thought it would be of interest to note, because I looked this up when I was concerned about how much of the plan area is in this designation and how does this compare to other places that we have looked at in the county and other master plan areas, and have provided for you the county-wide map that shows that much of the county is actually in an urban priority urban forest designation, with the exception of primarily the Ag Reserve. So that is not necessarily unique. That doesn't make it less important, but I just wanted to note that it was not very unique to the Clarksburg plan area as a whole. The Coolbrook tributary, though, is a unique feature of this plan area. In the 1994 plan, it designated the Coolbrook tributary for private conservation, and this plan extends the protections of Little Seneca Creek Greenway along the Coolbrook tributary, and hopes to achieve that either through parkland expansion or completion of private conservation easements through the development approvals. The committee unanimously recommends approval of the following environment goals and recommendations. As amended, there is one small amendment on recommendation 3. There's another one, a couple more on the next page, but we will.
I just want to say that we're in page 16 for
Yes.
those who are watching.
Thank you. Yes. So on page 16, environment goals, environment recommendations, and on page 16, recommendation 3 just has a minor edit, changing the word feasible to practicable. This is a conversation the council's had before, choosing to prefer the word practicable. Many things are feasible, but may not be practicable. Okay. With that, we'll turn to page 17. We are now on recommendation 6, and with that, this said to preserve or plant a native tree or landscape buffer at least 50 feet in width between new development and I-270, or between any solid screening or sound wall and new development, to allow adequate width to support a viable forest stand, to provide air pollution mitigation, heat impact reduction, and visual buffer from the highway. The existing recommendation says that the planning board may approve exceptions or variations to this buffer where visibility from I-270 is requested, or for other reasons deemed appropriate to proposed development. And what the committee has added is, in granting an exception, the board should consider a 125-foot setback from the I-270 right-of-way for any residential use. Simply tries to note that there could be a difference between putting a commercial use closer and requiring some visibility for that commercial or large employer versus putting a residential use near the highway and requesting that it not be buffered.
Just want to say that this was another point that we spent time in the committee, and it was a suggestion by the district council member that we all embraced. Thank you. Without objection, you can continue.
Great. There are 4 recommendations under the section for natural resource protection and enhancement, and the committee recommends those without change. The next section is climate change, resilience, and sustainability. And recommendation 11, this one has to do with the 35% green cover. Again, something that the committee spent quite a bit of time talking about, and talking about it at 2 or maybe even all 3 work sessions. So I'll read this one to you with the edits because it's kind of confusing. And it says, new development should provide a minimum of 35% green cover over a property's tract area, excluding environmental buffers and any land dedicated for I-270. This green cover area is intended to ensure adequate green and or shaded areas within the built environment for the health and enjoyment of people. Green coverage may include the following areas, either individually or in combination. These areas may be located on private property, parkland, or on land dedicated to public rights-of-way, with the exception of the right-of-way dedicated to I-270. And they can include intensive green roof, tree canopy cover, vegetated cover or landscaped areas, rain gardens, bioswales, and other stormwater areas. And then the committee has recommended removing landscaped parkland, privately owned public spaces, and other open space and recreation areas. And the reason for that removal is that those areas are actually covered in the text above, and they aren't features of green area. They are areas where they're counting the green cover. So it was a long and occasionally complicated conversation, but this is where the committee landed, and I think it's a really good place for moving forward.
With no objection.
Okay. There's recommendation 12 and 13 that were unchanged by the committee. And 14, just a slight language change here. Rather than encourage new development improvements to existing development to exceed the county's minimum energy standards, strive for net zero, but to support new development that does this. Any questions there? Okay.
No questions.
The next is the Parks, Open Space, and Recreation section. There are portions of 5 MNC PPC parks within the plan area. They cover more than 110 acres. However, the amount of available recreation amenities in this area is limited. Within 2 miles of the plan area, though, there are 20 additional parks and a wider range of amenities. However, these are not easily walkable or reachable by people that live within the Clarksburg plan area. The Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan seeks to expand available park and recreational amenities and improve access to the areas beyond it. And the community unanimously recommends approval of the park and open space and recreation goals, as well as the following recommendations for existing MNC PPC parks. So this section is broken up into different groups. At the bottom of 18, you'll see the start of the park, open space, and recreation goals. They're continued at the top of 19. And then you'll see the recommendations related to parks, open space, and recreation. And these are grouped by existing MNC PPC parks. You will see that listed on page 19. On to page 20. The only minor recommendation change here that the committee had was on number 9, where it wanted to insert the words active recreation in referencing potential parkland that will develop in the Lithicum neighborhood. So are there any questions of that?
Without objection.
Great. And then the following 2 recommendations related to Little Bennett and Obenhazen Wells. The committee unanimously approved all of that with that one minor change. And now we'll move on to the recommended MNC PPC parks. So in response to the recommendation 12 is about Constellation Park. And as first envisioned in the very early drafts of the planning, it was a park on the ComSat property of about 8 acres. And as the plan evolved through community input, discussion with property owners, planning staff, park staff, it became a constellation, a network of parks that would be provided throughout the plan area. They would be smaller in size, and provide opportunities for recreation and enjoyment across the plan area more consistently. So recommendation 12 is really about the Constellation Park idea. You will see a very minor edit to it, just with an S at the top, in the middle of page 20, but then it continues on to page 21, and there are a couple more edits. And so one is just some language change that at a minimum the following amenities would be included across the network of connected parks to ensure that sufficient park amenities are provided to serve the community and the park areas are large enough to accommodate these amenities. And then under C, though, under implementation, It states that the scale, form, location, configuration of the Constellation Parks will be determined by the planning board during the development review process, with the ultimate goal of 8 acres of new parkland provided as a constellation of parks across the plan area. And this was done to give, again, just a signal to community what they could expect ultimately, possibly across the plan area. Any
Without
questions?
objection.
Okay. The rest of C was unchanged by the committee. And then there were Cruelbrook Stream Valley Park has recommendations that the committee unanimously supports. Great. There was a section, roadway impacts to existing and recommended parks. I'll turn that briefly over to Mr. Kenny.
Thank you. So there are 5 of these recommendations under stream crossings, A, B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, and E all relate to crossings under bridges parallel to streams. Recommendation 14D was a little different in that it would be constructing a new facility over I-270. There was some concern that this was around the cost and feasibility of this, as it's not exactly a super precedented facility, at least within the state of Maryland. And so the committee changed this recommendation to read, with the recommended I-270 interchange at Little Seneca Parkway extended, or an alternative overpass design, provide wildlife passage under or over I-270 as practicable, adding that practicable language that we've looked at in other sections.
Without objection.
With that, we have recommendations related to community recreation center, recreation facilities. These are recommendations at the bottom of page 22. The committee made a recommendation to change the recommendation related to a proposed school center site. The plan, and as it now reads, the plan supports the development of a recreation center in or near the plan area, adding the Lithicum East Elementary School reservation site, which is currently owned by MNC PPC, should be considered as a potential location for this facility. And then in addition, relevant county departments should be consulted about the viability of such a facility as part of development review process for any proposed development within the plan area.
Council Vice President Balcom.
Thank you. I love this idea. There's a piece of property that's owned by the county through parks, and it would be a great site for the rec center if we can make that happen in some point in time. But the reason I wanted to pull it out is because it was an idea that came from our public hearing and from one of our community members who brought it up. And so it just shows just the importance of engaging the community during these master plans, and that not all the great ideas come from us. Thanks.
Don't say that too loud. It's so true, and I'm so glad the Council Vice President, the District Council member highlighted that community engagement is key, and this is an example. I see Councilmember Lorian Sales next.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree that the Lithicum site could be potentially a great spot for a park or recreation site, but because it's reserved for the elementary school, this is contingent upon MCPS, guaranteeing this site would be open to the community. And so have we followed up? Are there any contingencies that we can put in place, or?
So I think I understand the question. One, for the site to not become a school site in the future, MCPS would have to say that it no longer needs the site.
Okay.
To use it on an interim basis, I'm not an expert in that. We could get someone from Parks to come down and chat. I know that the property...
Looks like we have Taker. Put his hands up.
Henry.
Come on down.
Was purchased with ALAR funds. They have certain restrictions on use.
Yes.
Although I do believe that at a minimum, certain things can happen on the site prior to any decision on development. I'll turn it to Mr. Coppola.
Hi, Henry Coppola, Park Planning Supervisor for the record. So the property, it gets a little tricky, as staff was mentioning. The property is currently held by the commission under ALARF, the Advanced Land Acquisition Revolving Fund. which means that it's not functionally active parkland. We're holding it for the future school use, as you were pointing out. It does limit what we can do with it. We can't develop a full-fledged park on it. We can't treat it like it's parkland. We do have some recommendations, some language, and I think this is building off of that, just the encouraging the investigation of what is possible, what we could do there, and then looping in the rec department and thinking more about the rec center as a potential future thing there, and encouraging conversation with the school system about their plans for it as well.
Yeah, so that sounds like a lot of what ifs and hopes and maybes. And so I know we haven't gotten to it yet, but the ComSat neighborhood could be designated as an alternative location for rec center, correct?
So I don't want to speak for the rec department or Department of General Services, who does the actual
Site
sort of
selection.
acquisition and site selection and stuff. My recollection of speaking with them as we worked on this plan was that they felt that it was more useful and helpful for them and for moving forward with trying to get a rec center here, which is one of their highest priorities, to have it pointed out within the plan area. It would be great, and then language to emphasize that, but they asked us not to look at specific sites because they felt it would constrain their ability to investigate all sites throughout the plan area.
Yeah, but if we don't identify it now, then there's no guarantee that, we could potentially build there. So if we designate it as a potential option, we know that we won't be able to build residential units there or anything else until we get closer to evaluating whether the school or the ComSat neighborhood is preferred.
Sure. I'll just jump in, Patrick Butler. So the language in 16 actually starts with, this plan supports the development of a recreation center in or near the plan area. It did not have this language. This came out, again, you heard out of the testimony, and the PHP committee sought to add this addition that did get a little more specific. But I would say the original intent was to find an area somewhere within, including any of the properties within the plan area, in future negotiations and discussions with all the agencies that Henry has mentioned. So I would say it does. I think it does achieve what you're asking. The
By
PHP
only
committee,
designating the potential elementary school site?
well, it doesn't. It actually says that this recommendation says that we'll explore a recreation center in or near the plan area as a whole. The PHP committee sought to identify a specific site that we should also pursue.
I guess I'd point you to the bottom of that recommendation where it says, in addition to the school component, it says, in addition, relevant county departments should be consulted about the viability of such a facility as part of the development review process for any proposed development within the plan area. And that is really to get at that when applications for development come in, whether it be on ComSat, Lithicum, another property at Gateway Center.
So that opens up
the board
all
would
of
look
the-
at that.
Oh, okay.
Every property within.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
focused, the red kind of makes you look at that one thing,
Yes.
but the rest of that recommendation does help address your
Yes,
concern,
okay.
Councilmember.
All right, thank you.
I think that's already clear. I see Councilmember Will Jowondo, another member of PHP.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just wanted to add in the conversation, it was a great idea. Doesn't limit to that area, but I did, after we had this committee session, talk to MCPS because they have in their plan an elementary school review. They're going to have to, because of the declining enrollment, they're going to be doing a review this summer on shifts in potential closures of elementary schools. And I did encourage them to obviously just see this and factor that into that planning process, just for your, but it could be anywhere. But thank you.
That was a great comment. Thank you so much for sharing that. You may continue. Without objection. Okay, go ahead.
Great, thank you, and that was a helpful clarification. Thank you. We're on page 23. This is the public school facilities. There are 2 recommendations. And again, recommendation 18 was just to actually be coordinated with the prior recommendation. So it says MCPS, Montgomery County Department of Rec and Montgomery Parks, should coordinate to consider temporary uses for the Lithicum site that could provide public use and enjoyment prior to building on the site, depending on the anticipated need and timing of new construction. And again, this does get back to what is limited by the way in which the property is held, which is ALAR, but it is a recommendation for all parties involved to be part of that. The committee unanimously recommended approval of these recommendations as amended, and they also recommended approval of the other public open space recommendations you'll see also on page 23.
Without objection.
Great. We are now starting into the historic preservation section. This is at the bottom of page 23. Within the boundary of the Clarksburg Plan, there are sites and districts that were previously listed in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation and the Locational Atlas and Index of Historic Sites. And this sector plan also recommends designation of a new site and district as an amendment to the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. So there are recommendations related to resources that are already in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. That's on the very bottom of 23, very top of page 24. Recommendations for resources listed in the Locational Atlas and Index of Historic Sites. That's recommendation 4 on page 24. And then also resources listed in the Burial Sites Inventory, recommendation 5. And the committee unanimously recommends approval of those recommendations.
Without objection.
Okay. And now we'll move to new sites and districts evaluated for historic designation. Montgomery County Planning evaluated the Community of Faith United Methodist Church and Cemetery, the Clarksburg Heights Subdivision, and the Consat Laboratories for listing in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. The Historic Preservation Commission, charged with providing recommendations to the Planning Board, recommended all 3 resources for designation. Planning staff, who also provide the board with recommendations on designations, supports listing the Community of Faith United Methodist Church and Cemetery site and the Clarksburg Heights District in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. However, planning staff did not recommend the designation of ComSat Laboratories in the Master Plan for Historic Preservation. You'll see at the very bottom of page 24, top of 25, are the recommendations related to the Community of Faith United Methodist Church and Cemetery site, and then following it, you'll see the recommendations for the Clarksburg Heights District. What the committee made a minor edit here was removing recommendation 6 and recommendation 9 as recommendations, but that text will still appear in the master plan. It just doesn't appear as a recommendation because the council is not charged with making a finding related to the criteria. And with that, the committee unanimously recommended approval of the recommendations that we just covered. And we will move to ComSat next if there's no questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilcher-Wando.
I wanted to make a comment on ComSat, but I can wait until you.
Okay,
you
I'll
go,
cover
and
it
then
quickly.
And then I'll go. Yeah, no pressure.
All right, we're at the bottom of page 25, which is the ComSat building was completed in 1969, was constructed as a research facility and headquarters for the Communication Satellite Corporation. It's around 500,000 square foot building that was designed by world-renowned architect Cesar Pelle, and the main building has sat unoccupied for over 2 decades. The council received correspondence in support of and opposed to the historic designation. Recognizing the building's architectural and historic significance, the planning department conducted design and economic feasibility studies to assess the opportunities for integrating it into the community. However, it noted in the plan, and there are extensive appendices to this effect, the efforts did not yield a viable path for this adaptive reuse in the shorter medium term while aligning with other plan objectives. Therefore, planning staff and the board do not recommend the designation. And as you can see, if you turn to page 26, the committee unanimously recommends approval of the recommendations for the ComSat Laboratories. Again, it takes out recommendation 12, but we'll have that in the text. It already actually exists in the text of this section of the plan. And then the committee made one other unanimous recommendation, which was edit text preceding the ComSat site, and that's listed for you more toward the bottom of page 26. And with that, I'll pause for questions.
Councilmember Wilcher-Wando.
Thank you, and thank you for. Hope I didn't put any additional pressure there, Ms. Depp. I just want to say we heard a lot about this, as of course the district council member did as well, but the committee heard a lot about this. We took it up. We appreciate planning's work, and one of the things, couple things that I want to highlight. One, we all unanimously agree that this should be a marquee economic development site for Montgomery County. As we'll get to, we've bolstered the language in many places to try to emphasize that, and we talk to planning about how anything that comes forward, we want to really make sure that that's the goal here. It'd be a marquee site. Two, it's also a historic site in the sense that there's a lot of history, a lot happened there, and it was a big part of our county for a long time. And within the plan, there is a discussion of, even though it's not going to be designated formally, about a mitigation plan to kind of recognize the history, and any redevelopment or demolition should include a significant portion there. We got a letter from the very active CompStat Alumni and Retirees Association suggesting, one, that any mitigation plan include public and community input, which I do think should happen and will happen, and I wanted to lift that up. And two, another really interesting suggestion around the front portico or lobby area. Again, you can't know if that's possible based on the redevelopment plan that would come, but I just want to lift it up in the kind of theme of lifting up interesting ideas that come from the community that I think all of us would expect, that we should recognize this history in a good way and achieve the goal of a robust economic development project. So I just wanted to lift that up because we had a lot of discussion of it. Thank you.
That was beautifully said. Thank you for that. And I also, as Councilmember Jawando was speaking, I was remembering during the public hearing, the comments of my former planning board member, colleague Amy Presley, who basically said similar words. And she used to work in this site, and she lives in this neighborhood too. So I think we're all in agreement with that. I don't see anybody else wanting to speak, so we can move on without objection. Okay.
Thank you. We are at the bottom of page 26. This starts a section called Cultural Heritage, and there are two recommendations related to commemorating that throughout the plan area, and the committee unanimously supported those two recommendations. And then moving on, we now have a section plan-wide recommendations related to community, we're in the community facilities is a brand new section. And it lists out the different types of community facilities within the plan area. There are public safety and emergency services. There are public schools, as we have mentioned. Community facilities, we know that the library now has a new site and is underway. And then there's a discussion of public utilities and what we can expect in the future related to public infrastructure, public utility infrastructure. And with that, the committee, we're on page 28, unanimously recommended approval of those community facility goals and recommendations.
Without objection.
The actual goals are on page 28, and the community facility recommendations start on page 28. There are recommendations related to public schools. Those were recommended for approval as written. There's another section on community facilities. There's a minor edit there on recommendation 9. This is again just being consistent with the other recommended change that noted the possibility for the recreation center at the school reserved site, and then the recommendations listed again for you for the public utilities. Okay.
Without objection.
We are on the last section now, pretty much. There's implementation after this, which is a little bit, but the neighborhood recommendations, the next big section. And the plan identifies 4 neighborhoods within the plan area. There's the there's the Gateway Center neighborhood, the CompSat neighborhood, the Linthicum neighborhood, and the Upper Coolbrook neighborhood. The neighborhood level recommendations are intended to apply to development and to public sector improvements as envisioned by the land use character, building scale, density, and development timeframe of each of these locations. If you turn to page 30, you'll see a map of the neighborhoods. You'll see A, B, C, and D, and telling you which is which, and you'll see some white area which is not defined by a neighborhood. So the zoning recommendations you're going to see on the next 2 pages, they show up in map detail A and map detail B, provide you with some detailed zoning and accompanying tables that give you the map blocks or zoning blocks. And we will cover these as we cover each neighborhood, and then we'll do the 5th section, which is not by neighborhood name, but the remaining zoning areas in the plan. So with that, I would turn page 33, Gateway Center neighborhood. And this neighborhood supports a combination or continuation of employment-oriented uses, light industrial, research and development, commercial uses. The plan supports future development or redevelopment that could occur as mixed use. It could include more housing, retail and amenities, parks, open spaces, and transit facilities. The zoning blocks associated with the Gateway Center neighborhood are 7A and 6B. Both blocks are recommended to change from an EOF, an employment office zone, to a commercial residential zone with a 1 FAR allowable total, either as commercial or residential, and a height of 100 feet. There are recommendations for you on page 33, and the committee unanimously supported and recommends approval of the zoning and neighborhood recommendations for the Gateway Center neighborhood.
Without objection. And let me just say, I am so jealous. Going back to the University Boulevard plan, man, you have it so easy. Go ahead.
Okay, we shall continue. Okay, ComSat neighborhood. According to the sector plan, a range of development types are anticipated for the former ComSat Laboratories property. The property is covered by a single zoning block, 7A. The zoning recommended to change from also an employment office zone with a 0.75 FAR and a height of 100 feet to a commercial residential zone. Again, slight increase in density just to a 1 FAR, can be either commercial or residential, and a height of 100 feet. The community unanimously recommends several revisions to this section to clarify the significant economic development opportunities for the ComSat property to attract a major institutional use or commercial use in strategic industries, and that attracting a major employer should be a priority. With that, I'm going to turn it to Mr. Ali.
Morning. Just running through these recommendations that the committee recommended for the council's approval. As Councilmember Jawando referenced, it's just bolstering the economic development language and directly referencing the significance of the opportunity on the site. So the recommendations start with edits to the language that precede the neighborhood recommendations. You can see in red on the bottom of page 33 that there's a sentence directly referencing that a portion of the site could be occupied by office, manufacturing, and or bioscience uses for major employers in strategic industries that could be supported by the possibility of an interchange. The last sentence of that paragraph is also replaced to specify the location of the activity center should be established in proximity to a planned enhanced bus rapid transit station along Observation Drive Extended, and to the extent possible, office and employment uses should be integrated with the activity center and transit infrastructure. The last sentence of the second paragraph is also replaced with securing major institutional or commercial tenants for a portion of the ComSat property should be a priority, and integrating them in a mixed-use format along with housing, retail, amenities, parks, and public spaces, transit, and surrounding communities in a context-sensitive manner consistent with Thrive Montgomery 2050 is a preferred goal of the plan. Moving on to the specific recommendations, there were some edits, again, just referencing the economic development opportunity specifically. So in recommendation 3, the word supports is replaced with prioritizes, along with a copy edit. Recommendation 4 specifies that taller buildings and buildings for major employers should be concentrated along the I-270 western frontage of the property as practicable to help support the visibility of major employers on the site to the extent that's desirable. Recommendation 6 just clarifies some of the urban design recommendations related to this. So to say to help create an active pedestrian public realm within the mixed-use activity centers, new buildings should be placed close to the street with active storefronts and building entries, enhanced streetscapes, and varying building heights and densities. It also adds the sentence that surface parking lots should be placed away from public view, lined with development or adequately buffered and screened. They may be considered an interim condition to structured parking or future infill development and designed to facilitate potential future redevelopment. Recommendation 7 just clarifies that the concentration of commercial uses, particularly retail uses, should be along the planned main street to distinguish that from a major employer, for example. Recommendation 8 clarifies the connection to the Observation Drive Extended and that the alignment of Observation Drive Extended should be established generally along the property line that divides the ComSat and Linthicum properties. There are also some copy edits just to replacing the word feasible with practicable again, as recommended in section 10, recommendation number 10. Recommendation 11 also adds a sentence that these should be referencing the creation of third places, that there should be third places incorporated into the major employment uses as well, so that they could serve as spaces to allow employees to have spontaneous and informal interaction. So the purpose there is just say there are third places throughout the entire activity center, but those should also be a priority for the major employment use as well. And then recommendation 12 replaces the word preserve with strive to. And I'll turn it back over to Ms. Stone.
Without objection, thank you.
Great. We'll move on to the Lithicum neighborhood. We're now on page 35. This neighborhood, the plan anticipates primary residential development with a mix of housing types and densities and an opportunity for neighborhood scale commercial development. The zoning blocks associated with the Linthicum neighborhood are 8A and 7J. Both blocks are recommended to change from a light industrial zone currently to a commercial residential town zone, the 1 FAR, and a height of 100 feet. And the committee unanimously recommends approval of the zoning and the following Lithicum neighborhood recommendations. You'll see on page 35. There's an edit to 4, which is really an edit that is consistent with the one made for the ComSat property and has to do with recognizing that the property should seek to create compatible development blocks and a grid of streets, and that the alignment of Observation Drive extended should be generally between along the property line that divides the ComSat and Lithicum properties. If you turn to page 36, there's another edit to recommendation 6, which gets at again, it's an updated recommendation in recognition of a constellation of parks ideas rather than one park, and puts language there that talks about how, as part of the Constellation Park network, consider providing an active park space by expanding an existing parkland just south of Westville Baltimore Road between I-270 and the future Observation Drive extended.
Without objection.
Okay. And then the final neighborhood is Upper Coolbrook neighborhood. Like Linthicum, the plan anticipates primarily residential development in this neighborhood with a mix of housing types and densities and an opportunity for neighborhood scale commercial development. The Upper Coolbrook neighborhood is covered by a single zoning block 5E. It is recommended to change from R200 zoning to a CRT of 0.75. Commercial is only 0.25, residential 0.75, and a height of 65 feet. And the committee unanimously recommends approval of the zoning and the Coolbrook neighborhood recommendations as written.
Without objection.
And then there's the remaining plan area. Properties not included in the plan's identified neighborhoods are recommended for the following zoning changes. You'll see a table for that on page 37 of the plan. This is, again, so that the council can see each zoning change being recommended as part of this master plan. Most of these properties that are with outside the neighborhood names are being reconfirmed to their existing zoning, or they're being translated to a zone that accommodates development that has occurred since the last master plan. The council did receive testimony on behalf of the Housing Opportunities Commission with respect to property they own within the plan area, referred to as the Garnkirk properties, and these properties are covered by portions of zoning block 5E and 6C. So HOC is requesting a modest increase in density to CRT1 with a commercial of 0.25, but residential of 1 and a height of 65 feet. As they aptly note that in their testimony, the increase closely aligns with other density allowed within the plan area. And therefore, if you turn to the top of page 38, you'll see that the committee unanimously recommends approval of 2 new zoning blocks, 5F and 6D, to accommodate this request. So we would add 2 rows to that table. And the committee also unanimously recommends approval of the zoning recommendations for the rest of this area.
Without objection.
Great. And now move to implementation, last section. Implementation recommendations. The plan provides information related to managing growth. It references the growth and infrastructure policy, but also recognizing the role that master plans play in growth. It provides information related to zoning and alerts the community to the sectional map amendment that will follow approval of the master plan. It implements the zoning as you have just approved this morning. And then for the optional method, public benefits, this implementation section provides an opportunity for the plan to prioritize which public benefits it wants the planning board to consider when an application comes forward. And those prioritized public benefits are at the top of page 39. And so when an application comes in, the board should prioritize projects with a residential component that provides more MPDUs than the minimum that the plan is recommending. The plan is recommending 15%, so it wants to prioritize a project that would provide more than 15% MPDUs. It would also prioritize projects with a residential component, including 3 or more bedrooms or larger units for families. Mitigation provided because of the full or partial demolition of the former ComSat Laboratories building can also satisfy certain public benefits under the optional method. For any project that dedicates land or financially contributes to the construction of a public facility like a recreation center or a major transportation improvement, that could be a priority. And then finally, any project that incorporates sustainability features into the site design, such as nature center design, environmental site design techniques, and the variety of things you see listed there. And the committee unanimously recommends approval of the section on managing growth and zoning as written.
Without objection.
I'm going to turn it to Mr. Ali again for the economic development piece.
Thank you. Yeah, so this recommendation that the county supported, or the council, or the committee rather, supported was just to replace the language that was in the plan initially with some updated language, again, directly referencing the significance of the economic development opportunity. The initial plan language, referenced work that other county agencies would have to do to realize economic development here, because that tends to be how economic development works. Land use alone can't realize that potential. So building off of that, we thought it was helpful to maybe be more specific about forward-looking actions the county could consider taking, as opposed to referencing programs that already exist, which is what was included in the initial language. And so there's an opening sentence that just references that economic development is a priority for this plan area specifically, and then outlines 3 possible considerations for the county to take on in the future, including considering the possibility of land use, zoning, and permitting reforms, providing targeted capital investments, and creating targeted financial tools that help realize that economic development potential. So it's not a requirement. It's still sort of forward-looking and just providing guidance and a signal to county leaders to take on these ideas and implement the economic development priority of the plan.
Without objection.
And finally, talk about the capital improvements program. Table 4 on pages 110 to 111 of the plan shows a list of potential CIP projects coming out of the recommendations of the plan's vision. Very quickly, while we're talking about the CIP, I will note, I forgot to mention earlier, that the observation drive changes the feasibility study and phasing question. The T&E committee also included within the observation drive extended CIP project that will also come to the council. So look for that, just for cross-referencing. The committee unanimously approved this recommended approval of the prioritized list of CIP projects. However, noting that the West Old Baltimore Road side path extension feasibility study should be removed, consistent with the prior recommendation to remove recommendation 25 from the transportation section of the plan. On this note, also, the council staff attached an addendum to today's work session, attaching the executive's fiscal impact statement for the plan, which projects a net $10.1 million in one-time capital costs to implement the recommended infrastructure changes in the plan. The main drivers of this cost are a savings of $77.1 million from the realignment and other changes to the design of Observation Drive, $12 million for the 10 intersections targeted for safety improvements, and $45 million for 3 new wildlife bridges or overpasses to cross I-270 and Little Seneca Creek, which the committee and now council have added to be as practicable. The FIS also projects a net $32,000 increase in annual operating costs to maintain new facilities like Observation Drive, new intersection safety treatments, wildlife crossings, and park and ride facilities.
With that, you have now covered the entire plan. So what I would recommend is that next week I will bring to the council a resolution that basically writes up all of these changes for you in resolution form that you can straw vote. It can be placed for the public to comment on for 10 days and then come back later in the month and recommend approval if there are no changes to the resolution.
Thank you so much for that. As Ms. Dawn just stated, since we have completed the work because we were so efficient at PHP with our district council member that we didn't have to argue on anything here. You're welcome. We're able to move forward, but before we take the straw vote to approve the plan as amended today, I'm going to ask the district council member to share a couple of remarks.
Sure, thank you. So we started the plan with some pretty big unanswered questions. we had ComSat, the interchange, and the alignment of Observation Drive. All three were pretty big and has such a major impact on this plan. So I also want to thank the planning staff for their diligent work, our staff, our council staff, and the PHP committee for just really going through this in such a thoughtful, strategic manner, and for always including the district rep in these discussions. I really appreciate that. But also the community. The community was highly engaged in this one, and I think it was really, really important. So the Clarksburg plan is 30 years old, and we're just now getting the library. And so this plan, this sector plan, is much smaller, and we have the opportunity to do it better in terms of the implementation. And that's a commitment. It's very easy to approve a master plan, much more difficult to fund the assets that we have promised a community. So I have great faith that this is going to go forward. We'll see Observation Drive built. We'll see a community center built. And I just really appreciate the collegiality. I also do want to shout out to the property owners. This is a unique plan in that we have the majority of the plan area is two major property owners, and they were involved every step of the way. And particularly a shout out to the alignment of Observation Drive. That was a difficult negotiation, and so just thank you all around.
And with that, those in favor of approving the plan as amended, please raise your hand. It is, Sydney, raise your hand. There you go. And it passed unanimously. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you, Ms. Dunn, back with the final resolution for final approval, okay? We're gonna move on. We will now move to the legislative session. This is day 6. Item 3, introduction of bills. There are 2 bills for introduction today. The first is Expedited Bill 13-26, Building Permits, Immigration Detention Facility, ICE Out Act. Lead sponsors are Councilmember Glass, Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, Councilmember Stewart, Fritzen, Katz, Evans, Jawondo, Miggs, Sells, and Belcom. A public hearing will be scheduled for a later date. And before I pass it to Councilmember Glass, I know Councilmember Don Lukey has a few remarks. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And let's go with the headline first. I would like to be added as a co-lead sponsor, but I also want to give most sincere thanks to Councilmember Glass as the lead, the impetus for this bill, and to Ms. Nadeau, who's about to walk us through it, and want to say how critically important it is. And Councilmember Glass covered this yesterday in the press conference related to the bill, but to stand by our immigrant community, to examine what powers we do have, and to be strategic, we need to be strategic and tactical in what we are doing. And so that is my goal and my hope as we work through this legislative process, that we focus on that and that we are able to move the bill forward united together. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Glass.
Thank you, Madam President. The inhumane and illegal actions of the Trump administration are having a rippling effect across Montgomery County. We are seeing ICE picking up our neighbors, and we are seeing ICE detention facilities opening nationwide and even here in the state of Maryland. And that demands a response, and an immediate one. And today, we as a full council are introducing the ICE Out Act, making it clear that we will not allow private ICE detention centers in Montgomery County. The ICE Out Act is simple, and it is targeted, doing 3 things. 1, it defines immigrant detention facilities in the county code, which is modeled after the state of Maryland's definition. It prohibits building permits from being issued for immigrant detention facilities, and it prohibits the permitting department from issuing a use and occupancy permit to privately owned immigrant detention facilities. We are naming it, we are calling it out, and we are prohibiting it. Our immigrant neighbors are frightened for their safety, and many residents want to know what we are doing to help. And the ICE Out Act ensures that our permitting process cannot be exploited to bring private immigration detention centers into Montgomery County. I want to thank all of my colleagues for their support, for co-leading this effort, and making sure that every resident of Montgomery County feels safe. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask council staff if there's anything that you would like to add for this bill. No? Okay, wonderful. This bill is introduced. Thank you so much. Next, the second bill is Expedited Bill for 14-26, Motor Vehicle Towing, Redemption of Vehicle, Proof of Ownership or Control, the Vehicle Recovery Act. Lead sponsor is Councilmember Stewart. Co-sponsors are Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, Council Members Fritzen, Evans, Glass, Balcom, Mink, Jawando, Katz, and Lukey. A public hearing will be scheduled for a later date. I'm going to ask the lead sponsor if she wants to say a few words.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. As was noted, today we are introducing the Vehicle Recovery Act to help alleviate the burden for families whose loved ones have been taken by federal agents and their vehicle has been left behind in the public right away and then towed. As Councilmember Glass just remarked, we are facing unprecedented times, and many of our families, our immigrant families, are feeling the incredible stress and tragedies when we have federal agents entering our communities. This is compounded when we have families who have then lost access to their vehicle. They're experiencing a great deal of hardship and attempting to navigate one hurdle after another when a loved one has been taken. This bill would facilitate the recovery of a vehicle by a trusted person on presentation of documentation. To bring this home, a mother who recently lost her husband to ICE and has been assisted by MoCo IRC told us that this law is important because when ICE detains someone and leaves their car behind, family immediately begin to face impossible hurdles just to recover their own vehicle. In my case, I was told to call a number that never connected me to my detained loved one. While the costs kept adding up, I had to travel far just to try to retrieve the keys, only to face closed offices and more confusion. It was overwhelming and desperate. No family should go through this while already dealing with the trauma of detention. And so there are many things our families are facing right now in our community, and this bill would help alleviate one of the struggles they are having and obstacles. I want to thank my colleagues for co-sponsoring and give a huge shout out to Ms. McCartney Green for her work on this. Our rules around towing are a little bit complex, and so we really appreciate her assistance as we navigated this. So thank you.
Councilmember Lorian Sells.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to my colleague, Councilmember Stewart, for introducing this legislation. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Does staff have anything else to add?
No comments.
No. Thank you so much for that. And this bill is introduced. Moving on to agenda item 4, action on Bill 34-25, legislative process, climate assessments, amendments. The Transportation and Environment Committee recommends enactment with amendments. Chair Glass, can you please share the committee's recommendations?
Thank you, Madam President. On February 5th, the T&E Committee took up Bill 3425, legislative process, climate assessments. The bill clarifies and amends contents for the climate assessments that are required for County Council and zoning text amendments of the District Council. Among the clarifications, it amends the definitions of community climate resilience and clarifies the terms climate hazard, which would be a natural disaster or environmental consequence of climate change, such as flooding, extreme temperatures, severe storms, heavy winds, or droughts. The TNE committee voted it out unanimously, 3-0.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. And with that, I don't see anybody who has any questions. So it was very clear. Thank you to the TNE committee for your work. And this is a roll call vote. So we have a recommendation from the Transportation and Environment Committee. Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Councilmember Lukey?
Yes.
Councilmember Lukey votes yes. Councilmember Mink?
Yes.
Councilmember Mink votes yes. Councilmember Sales?
Yes.
Councilmember Sales votes yes. Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stewart votes yes. Councilmember Glass? Yes. Councilmember Glass votes yes. Councilmember Katz?
Yes.
Councilmember Katz votes yes. Councilmember Friedson?
Yes.
Councilmember Friedson votes yes. Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans votes yes. Councilmember Jawando?
Yes.
Councilmember Jawando votes yes. Councilmember Balcom?
Yes.
Councilmember Balcom votes yes. Councilmember Finding Gonzalez?
Yes.
Councilmember Finding Gonzalez votes yes.
And it was unanimous. Thank you so much. We're moving on for the next council consideration is the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Lutke, second by Councilmember Lori Sells. Those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Thank you so much. We are going to be adjourned until 1 p.m. for 2 proclamations and our public hearings. We're now in recess. Thank you.